a song of whales on the shoreline laid heavy and wrong. The tide bore its burden, a sorrowful sight. The strandings o' the Firth in the dead o' the night. They came in their hundreds, the dolphin, the whale, driven to shallows with a sorrowful tale. The learned men muttered on nets and no noise, but the seas bear a tally that none can disguise. So order a half and a half at the bar. From Fukushima's waters, the fallout sails far. Clap hands on the table, let everyone ken. The strandings o' the Firth mark the folly o' men. They'll talk all the weather, they'll talk all the storm. They'll scribble their numbers to keep with the norm. But the count only rises, the carcasses show a reckoning carry wherever tides go. From Rasse to Moray, the tidings run grim. The porpoise and mink now drift at the brim. Yet silence in council halls buries the cost, for silver and power would sooner them lost. So order a half and a half at the bar. From Fukushima's waters, the fallout sails far. Clap hands on the table, let everyone ken. The strandings o' the Firth mark the folly o' men. And if ye should wander the shoreline at dawn, where once the great singers and dancers had gone, remember the silence, remember the sound. The strandings o' the Firth, where the warning is found. So order a half and a half at the bar. From Fukushima's waters, the fallout sails far. Clap hands on the table, let everyone ken. The strandings o' the Firth mark the folly o' men. So order a half and a half at the bar. From Fukushima's waters, the fallout sails far. Clap hands on the table, let everyone ken. The strandings o' the Firth mark the folly o' men.
Hello everybody and welcome back. I'm hearing a bit of static on my side. I think it's that connection. Are you getting it on your side? Probably just my system, right? Hopefully. Hello everybody, welcome back. We're back at the die-offs again tonight. I hope everybody's doing good. And just let me mess with this for 1 second. Looks like I smurfed up. It's all good. Let me read through it. Sometimes I can't keep up with it. Sometimes I can. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Tiny bit faint static. B can't hear it. I was just talking about popping in the background. Not my audio. Not me, but shouldn't be anything going under. Here we go. We'll jump to the bigger screen. Yeah, it looks good on my side. My apologies. And I think it's this one I can zoom in on. Yeah, this one. Okay, here we go. We're going to be doing pictures again pretty quick here. Okay, thank you everybody. We got a poll. Is Fukushima's massive radioactive fallout that covered Earth still deadly 14 years later? Yeah, it's deadly for millions and sometimes billions of years, certainly hundreds of thousands. This is plutonium. This is Neptunium-239 based on 20 days. That decays to plutonium. After 2.5 days, the decay starts. There's 10 decays. Every 2.5 days, there's another decay. So each time is 50% of the original isotope will decay to a different isotope, which could be even worse, and often is. In this case, it's going to decay to plutonium-239. That has 24,000 years before it decays again. It'll decay 10 times before it's radioactive lead. But remember, even when it gets to lead, it's still radioactive lead. Eventually, everything decays to lead, right? Here we go. Is Iodine-131 killing babies in Philadelphia? So there's acknowledgement that the plume came here many different ways. Comparison with X-rays and CAT scans are meaningless. Inhaling particles increases the exposure by a factor of 1 trillion. And that's why it's so bad for insects and birds and mammals and animals and whales and every other species. And that the radioactive fallout is 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. And the harm caused by a nuclear disaster is greater than any work of man. It's worse than the atomic bomb because of Fukushima was completely different. As the inventories were massive compared to the entire history of nuclear weapons. It's like explosions going off in your cells, blowing holes in your DNA and your chromosomes. Radioactive data from Seattle may be withheld by the feds for national security purposes. It was 450,000 times above detection levels and lasted for weeks and weeks. But it was worse than that. It was a continuous plume covering the entire planet. It never goes away. It's here forever. So you had Neptunium, and then by proxy then plutonium. You had Xenon-133. You got sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyballs. And the cesium was at 1 million to 10 million times pre-Fukushima levels per cubic meter of air. This is radioactive scum. I'm sorry, true. Same thing. Radioactive shrimp being sent to Walmart. Why is he laughing? Why is he smiling? What's he wearing on it for his shirt on top of that? The pro-nuclear are absolutely insane, eh? 13,646 out of 38,200 children with tumors of 2 centimeters on the thyroid. The thyroid is only, for a child, 2 by 3 centimeters. You have to protect the female, and females are 4 times more vulnerable than the male. And you have to protect the females of all species, not just humans. Particularly children, you have to protect them with every fiber in your body. There will be no future. 13,646 out of 38,200, which is 35.8%, which is, it used to be 1 in a million. So when you scale it, that's 358,000 out of 1 million children, when it used to be 1 in a million. And this is the first year, 2012. There was 865,000 extra cancers after Fukushima. Cancer, not everybody got health care, not everybody was diagnosed, so this is a real issue. Detained shipping was approximately 68 atoms a kilogram. Of course, radioactive Scum/Drew says nothing to worry about because the intervention levels were 1,200 atoms a kilogram. But they changed that when Fukushima happened. Europe was 1,000, changed theirs to 1,000. United States changed theirs to 1,200. Japan raised it, I should say. Japan raised theirs to 500 and said, well, we're only half of what America or Europe is, so we're much safer. This was 100%. Like in Japan, it used to be 0.1. They raised it to 500 atoms. It used to be 0.1 atoms per kilogram. America done the same thing, and Europe done the same thing. And so even today, you'll see scumbags like Drew out there claiming that 68 atoms. Well, the reality of it is 11 atoms a kilogram, children will see heart problems, not 68. So 68 is going to be catastrophic. And Drew knows the difference. That's what makes him so evil. These people really are worthless scum. He said it isn't from Fukushima. Really, why not? Why wouldn't it be? Fukushima actually had 4 reactors. They were massive reactors. At the top of each of the buildings was decades of reactor cores, and the fuel pools, they're gone too. But what a statement. It's not from Fukushima. Really, the pro-nuclear community is perpetually disgusting and parasitic. It's not from Fukushima. Really? The buildings are actually destroyed right to the ground. They left the stumps there so they can manipulate you. But the buildings are actually gone. The fuel pools were at the top of the building, so were the reactor cores. These were 190-foot, 19-story, 65-meter buildings. Fuel pools are at the top of the buildings, not the bottom. The building is gone. And what's left there is a stump. There's nothing functional. And in the comment section, no need to cool down your conspiracy. You need to cool down your conspiracy brain because it makes reality counter. So the comment section was full of just parasites, eh? Irreversible heart damage for children with 50 atoms a kilogram. There's 60 atoms a kilogram in the shrimp, 68 rather. 50, there's irreversible heart damage for children. But 50 in an adult is permanent lesions to your organ. So suggesting 68 was harmless because the nuclear industry raised the safety standards so they couldn't be held accountable to 1,200. Because that's what that 1,200, that doesn't mean an intervention level. That means the nuclear industry can save face by raising it to an absorbent numbers. Like the numbers on the nuclear site in the United States were 185 counts per minute per square meter was an evacuation zone, not 1,200. And that's what makes people like Radioactive Drew so offensive, is that they know the difference. They're educated, they're not naive, they're not gullible, they're just evil. And their comment section is just the pro-nuclear community. Uranium, an aquarium filled with shrimp could power a large city for 70 days. It's unconscionable that somebody could put that there. Like, see, the only reason somebody would say something like that, this is not some kid or some random person. This is the nuclear industry, the propaganda machine going all in, right? Another radiophobia sensational media story, really. They studied every facet of radiation and found everything affected at least something. There was no safe level of anything in anthropogenic man-made radiation. Another scumbag says, I heard the story and immediately thought of you, Drew. Thanks for all the great education and anti-fearmonger effort. This is a concerted effort to downplay it, see? My guess would, so like when he says, I immediately thought of you, and so he's trying to encourage the new viewers to put their faith in radioactive scumbag. My guess would be North Korea nuclear testing. Why would it be North Korea? You really sure it can't be Fukushima? You know, Fukushima really did happen. TEPCO done nothing for 2 years. This is 2013. The first 2 years, they done nothing to stop the emissions into the ocean. Well, they couldn't have lost everything in just a few days. About 5 days, the entire inventories, which were massive. You're talking maybe 36 reactor cores and 8 fuel pools and 4 reactor buildings. Each of the reactor cores are 100 times Chernobyl. But that's what you got people like Radioactive Drew. What a disgusting name. No, I do not glow in the dark. That's the same person who said it could be North Korea. Like North Korea, the only reason they built weapons, they had no choice. They've been slaves to Japan for 50 years till Nagasaki happened, Hiroshima. Then the United Nations went there and dropped more munitions than the entire World War II on this little tiny country. Millions dead, millions missing, million refugee camps, millions of orphans, millions unaccounted for. They were occupied for 50 years. Before that, they had no way of recovering as it was, and then they went in and destroyed the country and napalmed every community. And so it's incredibly offensive that somebody would even invoke that. That's incredibly offensive. It just shows you this contempt that the industry has for everything and you. So banana equivalent dose was according to the American Nuclear Society, folks. The American Nuclear Society, it's important to note that the radioactive activity concentrations in the shrimp is similar to naturally occurring concentrations in bananas. Well, bananas is potassium. It's not man-made. You can't make a nuclear weapon out of it or a dirty bomb or anything else. Man-made has you can make a dirty bomb, no problem, or weapons. You can't conflate, you can't compare natural stuff with man-made. And the fact that Drew left that message there and he even replied to it, the fact that he left that message there, well, he probably owns the account that wrote it, but the fact that you would leave a message, like total dishonest message like that, is unconscionable. So a banana equivalent dose equals the shrimp. No, the shrimp cause the 50 atoms a kilogram is permanent lesions to a human adult and permanent heart damage to a child. So 68 is a brutal dose. I put a comment there. I'm pretty sure he removed it by now. Those people always do. Radioactive Drew is evil Drew. And there's so many evil pro-nuclear like you that it's hard to wrap my mind around it sometimes. And people like you should be litigated for your destructive crimes and put in a jail cell. Radaway is on oil 13. Imagine this is some pro-nuclear guy, probably at a nuclear plant or the International Atomic Energy Agency or one of the nuclear lobbying groups who wrote that. Radaway is on oil 13. This is what you're dealing with. Subhuman that has the ability to poison your loved ones, and they literally couldn't care less. They literally welcome you being poisoned and your children. It blows me, but he said, it blows my mind you have less than 100,000 subs. Don't worry, he'll get there. All the pro-nuclear do. Right? They're taken care of. They're well rewarded. He's not out there doing what he's doing. He's only there because he makes money doing it. I'm betting it's from North Korea testing nukes in the ocean, says Farmer. The ocean, and Drew says, the ocean also has a lot of natural uranium dissolved in it. This is the cesium after 2.5 years. From a German institute, by the way. The ocean has a lot of uranium dissolved in it. It has a lot of plutonium in it, and americium, neptunium, strontium, and everything else. So, like, he's the real life degenerate scum. You literally got to be a degenerate monster to have a site and do this kind of stuff. You're the worst human conceivable. He's there probably watching this, laughing his butt off, counting the money he made. A narcissist, right? He's ultimately the guy who will kill the family and then run away and live on an island paid for by taxpayers when the truth comes out. Shrimp with added calories, what's the issue? Modern prospector. So the people that are writing these types of comments that's the nuclear industry. Radioactive Drew put out the video, then the pro-nuclear community shows up and keeps putting these types of comments there, so that if there is somebody there with a gleam of truth into it, they sound like the crazy ones. And the whole industry is full of these people. Well, you can call them people. I'm not sure how that works, but you can call them people if you want. And Radioactive Drew, no, it's not from Fukushima. It can't be. What he's saying is it can't be from Fukushima, which is quite an interesting statement. If it can't be from Fukushima, why bother trying to reinforce that? Of course it's from Fukushima. Well, I mean, you got 80 years of emissions from 1,000 fuel pools worldwide, too. But you just can't rule out Fukushima like that. You can't make... Not only that, Fukushima, for instance, congenital heart disease operations for newborn neonates, there was a 14.2% increase in the number of operations per 100,000 live births for complex congenital heart disease in neonates and infants. It means that 14,200 children need open heart surgery for every 100,000 children. But according to Drew, there's no harm from Fukushima. But yet, the reality of it is nothing but harm from Fukushima. In the United States, cesium levels, 137, was at 500,000 times normal levels. We've never seen anything even that close to the concentrations went up day after day. 7,000 kilometers away. But according to Drew, it can't be from Fukushima, despite the fact that Fukushima covered and continues to cover the entire planet and has destroyed the insects, the birds, the mammals, the animals, and the human population. Right? There's not just cancer. There's heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, Down syndrome, schizophrenia. That's right, they're looking at external exposures. I got that song now we started off with in my brain again. It's awesome. 2 years since the start of that, which is James Lucid's song, by the way. Should have put a link in there because I know a lot of people love this stuff. You're going to hear it in the background, I'll stop it. I just want to get a link to that song so that we started off with, just in case people want to download it and put it on their kids' phones. Stuff like that, you know. And all that kind of music should be on their kids' phones and kids. James just hit 400 videos. On top of that, James Lucid. Well, it wouldn't let me post James's link that time. Let me try that one more time. Let me refresh the page here. What the hell is up with that? Why is YouTube always busting my balls? There you go. Link is in the comment section for people. And the name of the song, I'll show you the song that we played, because you might be new here. James's site. Is this song here, The Stranding of the Firth? I probably butchered the name, but that's the song we started off tonight. That's a hopping song, man. There's Still Lying to You About Nuclear is another amazing song. James got so many videos now. I've listened to him, but I haven't been able to play him on here. I got a tendency on this site when it comes to James's music. I want to play something that's going to just hook people and bring them to his site, and then they can get surprised by all the other stuff, right? I just want to make sure I get them hooked on something so that they go to his site. Because music is extremely lucky to have that music. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Let me make that a little bit bigger because it always bugs me. See, that's another thing the nuclear industry done to me, right? Where, because we used to have the comments always showing, right? You know, you bring it up, you wouldn't care about it. But the nuclear industry took advantage of that and put all kinds of trolls in there so that when I came over to the page, they would have comments attacking me or something, right? So for the last number of years, I just gave up on it. Look, I got the yellow stream of death. I got a new key into this. There's no reason to have the yellow stream of death. Just let me know they're out there watching, I suppose. A bunch of scum to do that to me. That way they know they're locked on to me, right? All right, let's keep it rolling. This story, I'm going to cover this story. 2 years since the start of treated water release. This is the craziest statement imaginable. 2 years since the treated water release began, they're saying. The reactors lost their inventories. They lost all the reactors and the reactor cores in the fuel pools in 5 days. And so what they want you to think is that nothing got out. They don't want you to appreciate that this actually exists, and this is massive radioactive fallout covering the whole planet in 20 days. No, nothing got out, Dana. It's 2 years since it started to treat it, which was the cover story. The cover story was meant to deny that Fukushima melted down, that there was any emissions whatsoever. Right? So nothing got out of these buildings is what they're saying. Like, it's hard not to hate the industry when you see stuff like that. Let's just touch upon this story. Then we're going to go to pictures of recent expeditions that we've taken. In fact, we're going to jump over there in about 2 minutes. International Atomic Energy Agency Director General, which is just a tiny subsidy of UN. There's also UNSCLEAR and IRPA, and the IPRC is not just International Atomic Energy Agency, which is a fictional company, right? It has no authority. It has no sovereignty over any country. It can't invoke it can't give any company a penalty. It shouldn't exist. It shouldn't have any authorities whatsoever. There we go again, Dana fighting with these glasses again tonight. But it works best when I'm right here. I can see everything really clear. But it looks awkward a bit. I got my hands on new cloths. Should have had a new one in the studio for tonight. This one's getting pretty... There we go. Holy shit, those things were... That was pretty rough. How the hell do you get your glasses that dirty, Dana? Yeah, busy man. Clean it with a poly shirt. Oh, look at that. It's a bit better. I just don't know how to clean glasses. I'm terrible at it. And once I see how dirty they are, I'm realizing this can't be healthy. Here we go. And away we go again. Sunday, August the 24th, which is today, is 2-year anniversary of the media saying nothing got edited. 2 years of claiming nothing got out of this, or that everything was filtered that came off that site, and that never happened. Well, they've been doing that for 14 years, but since August 24, 2023, the International Atomic Energy Agency, Taiwan, International Atomic Energy Agency, UN, Taiwan, South Korea, China, and Japan has conspired to erase the history of this happening. Since the release of the treated water into the ocean, you can't treat water from a nuclear meltdown. The filter, if you put all that gammas, alphas, neutrons, and betas in a filter, it melts down, for goodness sakes. You have a criticality, a chain reaction in the filter. You can't filter radiation, because after 20 minutes, you're talking about multiple sieverts per liter. So by the time you put 1,000 liters there, you're talking about multiple thousands of sieverts in the filter. So instead of 2 sieverts going into the filter and coming out the other side less, you got 2 sieverts going in and 200 coming out the other side. You can't filter it. It's absurd to suggest you could. I mean, they're suggesting that the buildings never even melted down. They're not suggesting, they're blatantly claiming that never happened. Began Tokyo Electric Power Company, Fukushima. A total of 100,000 tons have been discharged into the sea, really? But continuous monitoring of the surrounding waters detected no abnormalities. There's no abnormalities. So they're saying that didn't happen. There's no abnormalities. Reactors didn't melt down. They're pretending they're on top of the building because they were having a bad day. That's why they're pretending they're on top of reactor 4. Reactor 3 doesn't exist. 16,000 people quit the plant because nothing got out. And cooling the melted fuel. They're pouring water over a melted reactor building. They're just spraying water on a building. You really think they can't get near it? Your organs melt. So how are you going to reclaim it and then filter it? How does that work? Where's the rocket science behind that assertion? Well, let's do some pictures. How about that? Let's start with the gannets, because the gannets, we left off at number 1800, right? Should be able to zoom in on that. No. I'll figure this out. Just give me a second here. There we go. Just gotta remember not to screw this up after. So this is excrement, but this is the kittiwake's nest you're looking at right there. This is where we left on number 1800. And this was from a couple of weeks ago. That's a baby right there. You can tell by the fluffiness. That doesn't quite look normal. And that's another baby right there. The black and the yellow is an adult. Now they're not the best pictures, but we'll get better pictures coming up. I'll get into my rhythm here in a second. I got a tendency to take 2 or 3 or 4 pictures for everything, in the hopes that at least one of them comes out pretty clear. That's a small baby right there, isn't it? Looks like it's alive. It's a small one though compared to the one above it. Let me just zoom in one more time. Now the gannet colonies can dive pretty deep. Right, they're very streamlined, and what they'll do is they'll circle at around 1,000 feet, and they'll just free fall straight down. They'll tuck their wings. They have very long wings. They'll tuck them right behind them by their feet, all the way back. Their feet are very long. And they'll just go down, and you see a big splash when it hits the ocean, and there'll be just hundreds, if not thousands of them at a time will do that routine. So it's quite spectacular to watch. It's my favorite bird to watch for sure. And so they're very successful because they can spot the prey from above, and then they can dive down and snatch it by using that technique, right? And they're watching whales, they're watching tuna, they're watching other species. That's a baby. The black and the fluffy birds are the babies. Look how big that one is, but it's just because he has that fluff on him, right? So we love seeing that. And they were the most successful, was the gannets compared to the other species. Most of the other, well, all the colonies, there's 46 million birds missing, right? Which probably makes Radioactive Drew pretty happy. He'll be celebrating for next week. Free rounds at the bar close to Drew's house. And this was a boiling hot day too. The gannet is a very pretty bird, eh? They really are. He looks kind of angry. He looks like an angry bird there, that fella, don't he? But generally, they're a very pretty looking bird. I think they are. They're very, well, I mean, they're predators, so. And they got a nice little fluffy one there. I'm not sure. He's probably healthy, but he should have black on him, right? They almost look like a, well, that's a hole. There's a hole in that rock, makes it look totally different. When you're looking at the babies, they look bigger than the parents, right? So pretty good so far. We don't know until they start flying what the survival rate is going to be. I didn't see any gannets coming back with food. We did count some puffins. We're going to look at some of those pictures in a few minutes when we get through some of this. And some of the birds would have this particular pattern. So I think that's a different species of the gannets. I don't know what's going on. Is that a first year gannet maybe? I'm not sure about that. And we've seen this section before. This is where we kind of left off on the last show. And when we see birds coming in, well, they're not going to be carrying food in their beak, right? They're going to puke up the food. So it's going to be hard to see. You're going to need video to watch them, see if they're focused in on a small section to catch them feeding. You're on the open North Atlantic Ocean right there. It's straight across to United Kingdom from here. You're out on an island in the Atlantic Ocean on the east coast of Canada. You have to travel by ferry for about 7-8 hours to get to one end of the island. The island is about 900 kilometers across the island. This is a long drive. There is another ferry that does come across to Argentia, which saves you about 12, 14 hours of driving. It's a rough ocean, though. Most people will get off on the other side of the island rather than take the boat through all the ocean and just suck it up and drive across the province. But from what I'm seeing anyway, they got quite a few babies. And that's the only colony. The cormorants, which don't belong here, are the next strongest survival. Look how big that baby is, though, compared to the parents, right? Because it's literally like a fur, is the best way I describe it. Which is protect them from the summer heat and harsh conditions of the sun, right? So it's meant to stop their skin from getting burnt up and dried out. And we got two there with that pattern together. And I'm liking the babies. The babies are all looking good. That don't mean they're going to survive. It depends on... We know the colonies failed significantly in 2022. They tried to blame it on avian influenza, right? But the consensus was all the other birds were starving to death, so how come these weren't? They're good divers and everything like that, but so were a lot of... Like the common murres can dive 600 feet all day. They starved. And so a starvation event post-Fukushima is the norm. Let's get off to another section. Here we go. And so there was a good population. There was nowhere near what it was in 2022 before the die-offs got severe. That was both... And the die-offs in 2022 were at the same time the media reported on die-offs of the gannets and the common murres in Ireland, Scotland, United Kingdom, and Canada's east coast at the same time in the St. Lawrence. On the same day, you had reports of both sides of the Atlantic Ocean where they were trying to blame die-offs on avian influenza, of gannets in particular. And they were trying to blame it on roadkill. We're dying of avian influenza. They were taking roadkill and sending it to the same laboratories that were pumping out the dishonest avian influenza. Now, avian influenza is real, but it didn't jump the species for millions of generations. Why would it jump species now? And as I showed you, if you're just getting here, I showed a lot of documentation on Fukushima leading up to this point. And so we got great babies there. Look at this. You got, let me see how many babies in this small section. You got 1, 2, 3. There's another one above them. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. See, 20. And how many adults? You got 1, 2, 3. There's 21, 22 rather small ones. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So you got 28 or so adults, and you got 22 babies in that section. That's pretty darn good. There's lots of adults could be out looking for food too, right? So the ratio could be totally different than what we're seeing. But there's a lot of babies, and that's the only colonies last number of years. Now we got a colony of seagulls and cormorants, which don't belong here, by the way, and kittiwakes just up the road from me. There's always 1,500, 2,000 from spring all the way until late fall. There's none there all summer. They're gone. They were there in spring, but now there's about 100 there. And they're not in the typical habitat where they normally are. They're staying on this sandy island that's awash at low tide, at high tide rather. And so it doesn't add up. Excuse me. I'm definitely not on my game tonight. I was, Colin had sent me some information about radioactive shrimp videos and comments, and there was some descending voices and stuff like that, which kind of motivated me. I went out and looked up radioactive shrimp, and holy shit, it was amazing how many people came out. I couldn't get through all the videos. There's all the disgusting media stories, but there was all kinds of bloggers out there trying to warn people about radioactive shrimp. It really took off, and it was meant to do that. There was a big public relation campaign to push that out there, right? There was just thousands of media regurgitating the same story, and they were trying to blame any radiation on Indonesia, right? Which is meant to take the weight off of Japan. And then, but the numbers are 68 atoms a kilogram, and 50 atoms a kilogram of permanent lesions to an adult's organs, and it's permanent heart damage to a child and lesions to their organs. So it's a nasty dose, but they don't tell you that kind of stuff, obviously. So when the story originally broke, we assumed that there must have been some study showed up, and then the media came out to cover it up, to control the narrative, because it was such a big push. But generally, there is a lot of these stories that will show up where all the media will regurgitate it. It's called social engineering when you see that. They're trying to social engineer everybody to have the same conversation. And then you got degenerates like Radioactive Drew, disgusting parasites, just despicable parasites. What Radioactive Drew done was just disgusting. You really got to be the lowest form of human to do what he done. Look how small that baby is right there, eh? Wow. So there were some eggs that never hatched till late. We're looking for undersize, we're looking for dead. The colonies, as far as I can tell, of the cormorants are pretty healthy. That doesn't mean they won't die off before they can learn to fly and fend for themselves. But it's the most successful colony we've seen post-Fukushima, basically. We know that they lost over half the population of this particular legacy colony in 2022, and it was a starvation event. In 1907, just let me do another 10 or 15. We're going to go over to the puffins pictures. And we got 1,500 of these camera pictures eventually get through. We done quite a few on Thursday's show. And we get around 1,300 pictures of the puffin colony. Now, the puffin colony, as I'm going to show you in about 1 minute, has a completely different ratio. The puffin colonies also failed in 2023. In Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland on the east coast of Canada. This particular puffin was no more than 6 or 7 feet away from me. I still couldn't get a great picture because as everybody knows, I shouldn't be allowed to own a camera. I'm terrible with a camera. I'm literally, if you gave a camera to a monkey, his pictures are going to look incredible compared to mine. I've heard that comment about me so many times, I'm assuming it must be true. But they're pretty little birds, and that great big beak they got, they'll bring back 6, 7, 8, sometimes anchovies or sardines or capelin or whatever in their beak. And we got some pictures of them bringing food back, but it was usually only 2. Yeah, these 2 guys are nesting just 10 feet away from me. And because they're not always visible, when they were, I snapped off a bunch of pictures. Looking for that iconic shot, right? There was no insects out there, but there was insects where the gannets were too. We didn't see, I don't remember seeing any insects where these puffins were too, which was in Bonavista Bay. And that colony probably had 15,000. There's probably 15,000 of them. That's a young seagull. Should be a puffins in this video here, or picture here somewhere. Well, that's a puffin out there, I think. Yeah, that's one out there getting ready to land. But they should be landing all day, right? There's another one right there in the water. And I got some pictures of them underwater. That's a young seagull right there, I think. Or no, that's a... Or maybe it is. Maybe that's a young seagull. Fell off its nest or... Yeah, that's a young one. He might not even be able to fly yet, that feller. Fell off the cliff, I guess. Still surviving. But there's nothing to eat. Whatever he's eating is microscopic. The only thing on that rock is a couple of algae, right? There's nothing else there. It's hard to say with that picture. There could be some mussels on that rock, but I could be wrong. It wouldn't be the first time I was wrong, but generally there's nothing at the low tide lines unless it's a full moon. The friggin' throat is dry tonight. Excuse the language. Let me make myself a bit smaller because in case people are trying to get screen captures of certain birds, make it just a bit easier to get the whole thing in the frame. Because my videos are not 4K, but at least they're 1080. So they're reasonably clean pictures. And I apologize, people might want me to leave the picture there for a long time, but I got 1,300 of these to get through, so you have to come back and you can get a screen capture. And they're so funny when they walk, eh? They're the cutest thing you'll ever see. And I kind of showed some videos. I don't think any of them was walking, but... Oh, see that one coming in for a landing? He's coming in for a landing, so it's really important to check those guys to see if they got any fish in their beaks to feed their fledglings. Now with the puffins, we didn't see any fledglings whatsoever. We're going to get through these pictures and get back into the colony here in a moment. I took a lot, there he is walking, yeah. I took a lot of pictures of them when they were close to me. Okay, so we're back to the colony. You got a young seagull right there. He's not looking too healthy, that feller. Well, yeah, it's brutally hot down there. That's what they're designed to be raised in that. You see one there, and we're not seeing any pufflings, the fledglings. They call them pufflings. Now they do have what they call burrows in the ground where they raise their fledglings. But as soon as their fledglings are big enough to get up and start stretching their wings, they're going to show up, right? They're not going to stay on the ground the whole freaking time. And so not to see a single fledgling, it doesn't add up. Now, the only fledgling we've seen was an undersized one taken out by the mother, we're assuming, and then thrown away. But we haven't seen any puffin fledglings. We know in 2023, the colonies, the eggs didn't hatch, and that they actually laid eggs again in the fall, which was never seen before. So let me go backwards. When we see birds coming in, like up here, you can't, it's hard to see, but there's nothing, they're not carrying fish. And we'll want to zoom in and check them to see if they're carrying fish. And the fish are like silver and gray, so they'll stand out. So we have to do this quite a bit when we see them, just to clarify that they got nothing, they're not bringing back nothing. And if you can see the orange beak, it generally means they got nothing in their beak. So when you see the orange around the beak, if there was fish, and they usually have 4, 5, 6, 7 fish in their beak, if you can see their beak, it means they're not carrying food. If they're not carrying food, it means they weren't successful typically. Now some of them are the exceptions, but remember, they're hardwired through millions of generations to know exactly where their burrow is to. They'll go out and they'll fish, they'll come back, and they'll land exactly where their burrow is to, because they don't want other birds or seagulls to steal their food, right? So they'll only land, typically, they're not just landing randomly anywhere. They have their little tiny square foot territory, and that's where they're going to pitch to. Now this bird here looks like he got fish, and you can see, well, there's two birds there right together, so it's hard to say. We might get a cleaner picture in a second. And we just want to, these are the pictures that we're really interested in, is birds coming back and right from the ocean to see if they got food. Can't tell with that bird. Then we're looking for babies. And it doesn't look like those two. We're looking for dead ones. We're looking for fledglings, which are going to be different colors. They're going to stand out. We're not seeing that. And so that one coming in got nothing. That one with these wings, you can't really tell. And it's kind of odd you see so many of them stood around. And we're looking for anything that stands out, anyone that's coming in and landing in particular, or anything that's flying. And then we'll do a random scan to see if we can spot any fledglings, the pufflings, or dead babies. We're looking for anything that stands out, that doesn't, and we're looking for any predators. And I consider seagulls to be predators too, right? Oh, let me go back one picture. He's got nothing in his beak. We have seen a few. We definitely spotted a few with food in their beak. And you can't tell, right? I'm pretty good at spotting it. Looks like he got something in his beak. Yeah. He's got a fish hanging out of his something. And then we want to do some scans for babies, for dead birds. The seagulls are predators, right? So that's a baby seagull right there. And the seagulls themselves can easily eat a predator, eat a baby puffling, right? And so, you always see them mixed colonies, but generally there's not many seagulls, is it? Or he's not bringing back no fish. We'll come back to the stories here in a minute. He's got no food, I don't think. No, well, maybe. It's hard to say with that guy. I don't think he does, but hopefully we get one more picture of him. Yeah, right there, maybe. I seen there's another. Yeah, he's got no food. There's another one right over here. He's coming in. He's got no food. Is this guy landing? I missed him. Go backwards. Yeah, it looks like I don't see him. So he's coming in for a landing. Right, this guy here is landing. And he's very high speed, so it's hard to say. I would have got him in that picture if he was landing. You think I would have caught him in a picture? So he's moving pretty fast, so he could be over here somewhere, but yeah, that could be him there. And there's another one right there. Look, he's got nothing in his beak. I can't really say about this guy, but it doesn't look good. Look at the next guy up high. We can't say that guy got nothing, that guy got nothing, that girl's. There's another one coming in for landing over there. We can't really tell. This guy got nothing in his beak. We're looking for any fledglings, which are going to be different colors, different texture, and different sizes than your puffins. We know the colony failed in 2023 symmetrically on the east coast of Canada. We're looking for any dead animals. So this guy's just landing, and then we're not seeing any babies. And we're going to jump back to the story shortly. We see one more bird landing, coming in for a landing. Right there. There's a kittiwake over there. He's got neither egg. There's a couple there, but look at them. It's hard to say. He could have something in his... No, he's got nothing in his beak. Sometimes because they're small, so you got to really do a double take. So these birds here with the white heads are not seagulls. They're kittiwakes. That's their nest. And so we're not seeing any fledglings. I think we might have seen one kittiwake fledgling. Is that right, folks? On the last show. And there's not a lot of kittiwakes. We know the colonies down here failed multiple years in a row, never had any babies whatsoever. The seagulls had about a 4% survival rate. The cormorants were 17 to 20% survival rate, which meant they made it into the ocean. They were able to fly on their own power. So he just landed right there. Let's get a look at that guy. Can't see his head. Go back one. Oh, he's right there. Take your eye, and can't get a shot of his face. He keeps hiding his face from us. He could be a criminal. Why else would he hide his face from my cameras? It could be that one right there too, right? That we looked at earlier. Oh, he's coming in. Still no look. I happen to love, that's one of the kind of pictures I really like where their feathers are they're coming in for a hard landing. And there he is right there, I think. Yeah, nothing. He got nothing in his beak. Has he pitched yet? He's just landed on the ground, yeah. At the same time, we're not seeing any fledglings. We're not seeing any dead babies. And despite the fact they have burrows, the fledglings have to get out and get heat and stretch their wings and everything else, right? Birds will be birds. Baby birds will be baby birds. There's a little cute, he's just a few feet away from me, that guy. He needs a haircut. So there's another colony out on that island, and so I'm assuming there's around 15,000 or more puffins. There's 46 million birds missing. There's 46 million birds missing. And the colonies we're seeing are not doing very good from what we're seeing. But you can tell that there's a good population there. They're a long ways away. That's the best I could do with that particular. I got a good lens. It's a really good lens. And there's a lot of activity, right? But like the species the area I'm looking at, I've seen a lot of food coming back to the nest. Let me go back. I don't know if we can zoom in on his head a bit. Yeah, he's got no food in his mouth. And that's the thing you got to go through every picture and you got to look for any birds with food in their mouth. And then you got to do a statistical comparison. Of birds with food versus ones with no food that you were able to see. And then you have a ratio, a percentage to work with, right? And then at the same time, you're looking for the fledglings. And the fact we see no puffin fledglings is known as pufflings. Nothing whatsoever. And very few coming back with food. And we see nothing but adults everywhere. There's another one cruising in there. He's got nothing in his food and his. So you're looking for anything fast moving, and you got a lot of. There's another one right there coming in for landing. He doesn't got any food in his beak. There's another one right here, but we can't see it. Such beautiful birds. The nuclear industry had to destroy everything. Way to go, dirty old nuclear. He landed there somewhere. I got no idea where. Oh, there he is. He's landing right there. I don't know. Where's he to? He's right here. You can't tell. That's him right there. He's just putting his wings back. He got nothing in his beak. Okay. So he didn't bring any food back. We're looking for anything that stands out. Any predators. We're not seeing any big predators. Not seeing any eagles. There was one eagle at the gannet colony. He got chased away by seagulls, believe it or not. For some reason in my mind, I thought it was crows, but when I looked at the pictures, I'm seeing seagulls. And because when you're snapping 1,500 pictures, you kind of lose track sometimes. So I don't know if the seagulls are there as predators because there's no babies there. Could they be also contributing to... They have no problem swallowing a puffling. Just pick it up and swallow it while it's alive. They'll do it in about 2 seconds. There's nothing the puffin can do about it either. Look at this guy. He's slick. They're the cutest animal you ever see when they're running. Go watch a video of them sometime running, puffin running. Up close. It'll blow your mind how cute it is. All right, here we go. We're back to... So this is the kittiwakes. They look like small seagulls, but they're a different species. And they nest in the very open. So you see, that's his nest there. Even if there was an egg there, you would spot it. The same thing up here. If there was an egg there, you would spot it. We're not seeing any survival of the fledglings. There's 3 more over here. If there was a fledgling there, they would stand out like a sore thumb. They have nowhere to hide, right? It's just, notice how the nest is almost always tilted down. So the poor babies, man, from the very get-go, they have to struggle to survive, right? So if there was a cormorant there, or kittiwake there, babies, you would have seen it. And you should see some of the places where they got their nests set up. Like, it's unbelievable. But I think we just checked all of them. I didn't see any fledglings. So 0 survival rate. There was one picture we had that was pretty grainy looking from the last show, but it looked like there could be a fledgling from the kittiwakes. But that doesn't mean he's going to make it to the ocean, right? So all the cliffs should be stained like that, like you're seeing there. All the cliffs of my coastline out here from 46 million migratory seabirds, the biggest migratory sea run on the planet. Oh, I don't know, actually. Like if a fledgling was there by itself, they would stand out like a sore thumb too. So we're not seeing it. We already looked at all of it, so let's keep going. Back to the little... He's so close to me, that guy. Like, he's literally just 4 feet away from me right there. I wanted to crouch down to get a better shot, but I'm afraid to scare him. And that's a real tourist. A lot of Japanese tourists there when I was there. Which makes me nervous, by the way. After what Calm Down Charlie said to me. Let's get through these pictures, then we'll go back to the stories. I had a couple of hundred of these close-up pictures. Well, because I got so many, I'm trying to concentrate on fledglings, right? Oh, they're having a little moment, eh? I think they live 20, 25 years or something. Maybe he's begging for food. Did you bring me back any food? They carry the food in their beak, so they're one of the few species that you can tell, right, how healthy the economy or ecology is, because if there's a lot of fish there, they'll always come back. All of them will have food in their beaks. When they're coming back, and 99% of them don't have food in their beak, which is what we're seeing, then that's a failed colony. That colony will fail. And let me get through the rest of this. I want to get back to the major colony, then we'll go over to the... There it is up there. We're starting to rise back up. I might come back to them before the week is out, but I should be zooming in. There we are. So I know where I'm to. Right there's that rough looking. He's not very healthy looking, eh? That baby seagull. And we'll come back to these. I'm going to head out of here for a few little tiny bit. Oh, Yeah, one bird flying in front of me, but you can't tell if he got something in his beak or not. You can kind of. Let me check that one. What am I at here? 821? 822? Okay, we'll come back to this after. Is Fukushima's massive radioactive fallout that covered Earth still deadly 14 years later? I had someone say to me today, well, Fukushima happened 14 years ago, so it doesn't matter. In one of the comment sections I was commenting on about the radioactive shrimp. People so they're saying that they recovered everything from buildings that don't exist anymore and they're treating it and nothing gets in the ocean on tritium. It's frightening. The only reason they're doing this is because the population has no concept of nuclear. And so all you got to do is get rid of people like me and you and put out people like Radioactive Drew, the lowest form of life, the epitome of crazy. I still got that song we started off with on my brain. I love that. It's very calming for me. It is treated to remove most radioactive substances. Really? Okay. Explain this for me then. TEPCO done nothing for 2 years to stop the highly radioactive Fukushima. And calling it a leak is absurd, right? How can you look at that and call that a leak? Tritium and then diluted with seawater. Massive radioactive release at Fukushima going on for almost 3 years. The containment vessels are broken. Well, let's have a look at the containment vessels. Oh, that's right. They don't even exist. Meanwhile, in June, China announced it would resume imports of Japanese seafood. Did you know that? Not really. It still maintained a ban on imports from Fukushima and 9 other prefectures. Very rare did he put the second part of the sentence there. It's usually, in June, China announced it would resume imports of Japanese seafood. And when China was asked about it, they said, no, we didn't say that. All the Japanese media said it, but China didn't say it. Nuclear industry shouldn't exist. Booklet touting Fukushima plant water discharge angers schools. So this was March the 7th, 2022. So why did that show up today? Because they made an adjustment to the story. And what we've discovered was when we got lots of spare time, we'll go out and find the same story from multiple medias. And then we'll compare it to whoever posted a new version. And you usually find significant stuff removed from the story. They edited the story and then let it slip back up there. They're notorious for it. Or they remove it altogether. So they sent this out to over 2 million children in Japan to convince them that everything is safe. So the children would say that as they were growing up, they were being socially engineered, severely indoctrinated with propaganda from the nuclear industry. But there was a bit of a blowback. A leaflet distributed by the Reconstruction Agency. So they're supposed to be reconstruction. And instead they're sending out propaganda to the junior and senior high school students about Fukushima water in Miyagi Prefecture. And there's evil, but nothing comes close to the nuclear industry. How come? Complaints from educators have prompted some municipalities in coastal areas, the Hokkaido region, to stop schools from handing out government flyers to students or retrieve distributed ones that tout the safety of the released water from a crippled, like calling Fukushima crippled, buildings that are completely gone, calling that crippled is only meant to misrepresent what's really going on. Reactor 3 ejected the reactor core right out of the building and the fuel pools, decades of reactor cores. And so you had to go to another page. The government sent a total of 2.3 million booklets, Reconstruction Agency, directly to the elementary, junior, and senior high schools across the nation in December of 2022 in an effort to prevent reputational damage. So they lied to them to prevent reputational damage. They lied to them so that people would eat the food from a nuclear wasteland worldwide and wouldn't try to protect themselves. So they're purposely trying to harm everybody on the planet. Right, they're purposely doing that. Their intentions is to harm everybody on the planet. Whew. Excuse me. The big yarn snuck up on me. And get rid of everything we covered so far because bear with me. So I want to play a video. Japanese government has threatened me with Operation Long Jump. Now at the time I didn't appreciate how deadly this was going to be. And they're going to talk about Thunderfoot, which is Phil Mason, who looks remarkably a lot like the shoe bomber, right, from after 9/11, right? Remember the shoe bomber? He looks just like him. Phil Mason is a notorious troll for the nuclear industry. He makes disgusting radioactive Drew look like a schoolboy. So this was the colony I was alluding to earlier of the seagulls, the cormorants, and the kittiwakes with a very tiny survival. And that day I was down on the motorcycle on the shoreline or across from the island, because normally we're out there circling the island by boat, and I have the telescopic lens anyway. And we were doing a video where I was talking about that particular field study, and a representative from Tokyo, Japan, known as Mashida Mashada, Tokyo Bureau, called my show to tell me of Operation Long Jump, which was meant to destroy my reputation and to harass me for the rest of my life and attack me in my communities and in my province and in my country and worldwide. I'm going to play that clip. Now, this guy's been stalking us for a long time. And so I'm not very nice to him, right? I didn't realize what he was saying during the video, but I realized a few months later that they had actually intelligence agency has launched an operation to destroy me. I'm going to play that for you. We'll be right back. Oh yes. Now see, because this camera, now I'm talking, we're doing a live show. He's going to call in about a minute or so. The aperture is stuck open. I can't do pictures, I can only do videos. And if I accidentally click a picture, I have to take the lens off, restart the camera, click a picture, that'll leave it open, turn the camera off, then put the lens back on and only use video, right? So when you're zoomed way in over to that island, because that's one of our study groups for field studies, and it's good enough, like ideally, the theory was I can shoot the video. Oh, I think that's Calm Down Charlie. Should we give it a try? Hello?
Hello, Mr. Dino.
Who's this?
Yoshida Machado, Tokyo Bureau. Tokyo.
Is this the Tokyo Bureau Chicago division?
Indeed, yes. Mr. Dana,
how do you like
we
my-
want to
how
tell
do
you
you-
about a new...
How do you like my T-shirt I got
We
for
want to
you?
tell...
Do you like my?
We want to tell
do you like my
about
T-shirt?
friend of Tokyo Bureau.
Do you like
we
that?
tell you about friend of Tokyo Bureau.
You fuck
Thunderfoot.
Tokyo Bureau.
He
Fuck you
knows
too,
a
you
lot
piece
about
of shit.
radiation
You shut
and
your pie
nuclear.
hole.
He knows a lot more than you.
Who do?
You're stupid, man. He a friend of Tokyo Bureau, and he is instrumental in helping us launch Operation Long Jump.
How do you spell that?
Operation Long Jump.
How do you spell
Mr.
it?
Dana.
How do you spell it? How do you spell it?
Huh?
How do you spell that? Long jab.
Huh?
Long
What'd you
jab?
say?
You say long jab?
Long Jump.
Long jab.
No. Operation Long Jump. Get it right, Mr. Dana.
Long jab?
Long Jump.
Did you
You're
order
silly,
one of my
man.
T-shirts I made for you? You probably got the
Dana,
pink. You probably got the pink one, right?
Stop avoiding the situation.
What do you want, scumbag?
With Tokyo Bureau advisor and friend,
Yeah.
Mr. Thunderfoot, you're gonna be finished. You're gonna be finished, Mr. Dana.
Yeah, I'm all shook up, eh? I'm so scared of you.
You should be. Oh, I would love to be in your shoes. Oh, you make me sick.
Hey, what are you going to be when you grow up?
Okay, sit tight, Mr. Dana.
What are you going to be when you grows up?
Sit tight. We'll be with you soon.
I heard.
See you later, Mr. Dana.
What are you going to be when you grow up? I heard you're going to be a big prick just like me. So that's quite the threat. He's threatening me, right? And he's saying Stinkfoot, Phil Mason, to your left, is going to help him, which is from Britain. Now we got a lot of recorded calls of him doing that stuff, and leading up to that, he was talking about Operation Long Jump, and so I was just messing with him. Operation Long Jump. I was just pulling his leg because he's such a piece of shit. Oh, excuse me. So this is Frank Hippa. At this time he was a professor, and this was on March the 16th, day 5 of Fukushima. This is the first week. And he was asked how many reactor cores are in the fuel pools at each of the buildings. And in particular, he was talking about Reactor 4, a single building. Reactor 4 looked like that. But remember, they pretended that they were on top of the building, the media worldwide, 2 years later.
What used to be.
So those people are pretending they're on top of a building to the left that doesn't even exist, 190 feet in the air, right? This is important.
And if, in terms of what we know about the capacity, about how many fuel rods would likely be inside that reactor, what sort of quantity are we talking about radioactivity?
I've heard different numbers ranging from 2 to 15 reactor cores worth. No, 2 to about 8 reactor cores worth.
So if it can't be controlled, that's worst case scenario, 8 reactors worth of radioactivity.
Right. Right.
And it would be released into the atmosphere.
Radioactivity. By the way, the fact that this has happened at unit number 4 is understandable and is consistent with the theory that it really did dry out because the fuel from the unit number 4 was most recently discharged.
Okay.
And therefore was the hottest, and therefore the water would have boiled off more rapidly.
So at least 8 reactor cores in the fuel pools. Don Vincent says Richard's not appearing in his feed, but I see him. He's right there. Let's keep going here. Remember, there was 865,000 cancers in the first year. Not everybody gets cancer. Not everybody was diagnosed. Not everybody has health care. Remember, it was 4 buildings and 8 fuel pools that melted down. This was cesium-137 radioactive fallout covering the planet. In 23 days. Oh, I'm in the wrong spot. Hang on. Let's go backwards. Did I screw up or something? Okay, I did. So we were just talking about the puffins, right? Why are hundreds of dead puffins washing up on the coast of Scotland? In the wild, puffins have an average lifespan of 25 years, and each adult pair mating for life. So when you seen those 2 puffins necking there in the pictures I was showing you, they could have been together for a decade or 2. The investigation to the death of razorbills and guillemots is now focused on 2 possible causes. A significant failure of the marine food chain. And so the reason they're even invoking that is because the animals were emaciated. A bird wreck, any kind of bird wreck is a significant number of birds dying, right? So more than 100 dead birds washed up in the Scottish shores in the worst incident in 50 years. In Alaska, when they found 250, they figured half the population had died. The bodies found appeared to be emaciated, suggesting the birds have been unable to find sufficient food. The other one was trying to invoke other things, right? It did mention like there was a lack of food or whatever. But this one, the next story tells you that the birds were actually emaciated. There was no food. And then the birds we're looking at coming back to the colony in the research expeditions we carried out this month are not bringing, there was a couple of them, but not many are bringing, just not even a percent is bringing food back. We still got a lot of pictures to get through, so hopefully I'm wrong, but most likely, unfortunately, regretfully, I'm not. Am I still? Hang on here. Sometimes I struggle. I guess something done wrong here. I should be able to zoom in. Just bear with me. I'll figure it out. Oh. Shouldn't be. Should be here. Yeah, there we go. Let's keep going. At this time of the year, the puffins should be far out to sea in groups, so the fact that they are being washed up on land means things have sadly gone wrong for them. Well, it didn't go wrong. They're emaciated. I gotta go backwards here. Hang on. Carcass of 45-foot long whale recovered off the Prairie Coast. And I think this is India. Don't quote me yet. That's now if someone sends me a picture of that and asks me what it is, if I don't see the tail, I'm going to say I don't know. Don't look like any whale. That's the most extreme emaciation. Like there are some whales, right, that are fairly skinny. Not very many, but there are a couple. Like the fin whale, for instance. It's clearly not a fin whale, or maybe it is, I don't know. But you can see the peanut head, you can see the shoulder blades. You can see the body is so emaciated. It's surreal emaciation we're looking at there. Where's that other story we were looking at here? 33 polar whales, this is 2021. 33 polar whales. Now, this is video 5 on this subject in a row. I done a video on Friday night, Saturday morning, midnight, right? Friday night, rather. Because I was going through old headlines. And because we only got 4 shows in the last week, and because this is such an important topic, I wanted to put a little bit more out there. And because I want to make the industry pay for what they've done to our planet, I'm trying to put more effort into my work. I'm trying to be a bit more calmer. A little bit hard for Dana. It's hard to be calm when you can see an extinction event this clear. Rescuers worked through the day keeping 38 whales alive. They might have stayed alive anyway. It's not like they haven't done it before on their own. But the news day returned, so too did the rescuers. Multi-ton animals, you can't move them. If they start kicking you, they can break your leg or worse. Just pick the so-called rescuers, they can't move these animals. But we can't get any clean pictures. We're looking for peanut heads. We're looking for vertebrae. We're looking for rib cages, signs that they're emaciated. And that's typically what we're finding. Now, the polar whales in 2014-15, and we showed you a lot of that earlier in this series that we started last week on Monday. The original, like in 2014, 2013, 2015, 2016, for instance, they always done necropsies, animal autopsies, and the animals always had empty stomachs. But after that, they stopped doing, on polar whales in particular, doing necropsies. And so I think since around 2017, 2018, we've never seen a necropsy after. What does that tell us? It tells us it's pretty suspect, right? By the 16th, 16 whales had been refloated, ushered into the harbor. You can't usher a whale anywhere, okay? Whale don't give a shit what you're doing. They're under the ocean, not above the ocean. They're not up there like, it's not like you're talking to your pet dog that you had for 10 years and he's going to listen to you. You're talking to a whale that don't recognize you. They didn't carry this whale out there with tarps, okay? Unprecedented die-off, melting ice, climate change is wreaking havoc in the Arctic and beyond. Oh, you mean radioactive fallout for 80 years. That's what climate change is. And those cliffs, you're not seeing any excrement on the cliffs, so there's no colonies there raising fledglings. And those rocks in particular would have been primed because it's very difficult for any predators to get out there, right? In the last 5 years, the traders of humanity, also known as scientists, have observed animal die-offs of unprecedented size, scope, and duration in the waters of the Beaufort, the Truckee, and the northern Bering Seas, while recording the disappearance of an entire... It's not displacement, it's not, the fish have millions of generations of doing the same thing. They're not just going to go somewhere else. Right? They're going to die and disappear. And disappearance of an entire species of fish and ocean-dwelling invertebrates, the mussels, the sea anemones, the starfish, the clams, the oysters, etc., the algae, the invertebrates without the backbone they're talking about, disappearing, which is the basis of the ecosystem. The ecosystem is critical for resident seals, walruses, and bears, as well as migratory gray whales, birds, sea lions, numerous other animals Lots of animals from the coastline will come down at low tide to feed, right? They have for millions of generations. They're genetically predisposed to go do that. Scientists describe what is going on as less an ecosystem collapse than a brutal regime shift, an event in which many species may disappear, but others will replace them. Well, there's nothing replacing them. The coastlines are stripped. It's a very dishonest thing to say. At the same time, they're documenting the disappearance of the cold pool, a region of the northern Bering Seas that for thousands of years served as a barrier that protected cold water species like the Arctic cod, the pollock, snow crabs from subarctic species such as walleye, pollock, and Pacific cod. In the last 5 years, many of the Arctic species have almost entirely disappeared from the northern Berings. Let me run that again. In the last 5 years, and this story is 2021, I think it is. Like most of the stories were and tonight are 2021 stories. And I have another recent die-off video that'll get done. Maybe we'll start that tomorrow or the next day, most likely. We got a lot of this to get through. We need to bring attention to the mass species extermination event that is playing out, and unprecedented die-off, melting ice, climate change, wreaking havoc. In the last 5 years, so they're saying 2015. Since 2015, the species basically disappeared from the Bering Seas. The snow crab, there's I can't remember the total number, around 10 billion snow crab have disappeared over the last year and a half. It's over, right? It just disappeared, Dana, just randomly disappeared. Which is 4 times more than been caught since they started commercially fishing the snow crab, right? Whether the warming has diminished those super cold water species, it didn't diminish them. Fukushima radioactive fallout exterminated them. American scientists can no longer observe them, remains unclear, but the scientists say animals seem to be suffering the more distant polar regions too, also, according to sporadic reports from the area. Well, the radiation caused this issue with the glaciers where the ice can't crystallize. That seems to be the consensus. Globally, cold water ecosystems support the world's fisheries. Well, we have the coldest water. We're in the Atlantic. We typically got the most oxygen, too. Halibut, and we're seeing nothing but dead zones everywhere. Halibut, all of the cod, all of the Benedict crabs, lobsters, shellfish. This is the majority of the food source for the world, said Noah Duffy Anderson. Yeah, is the majority of the food source for the world is now gone post-Fukushima in just a 5-year period. All the gray whales that are left, there's 14,000 died post-Fukushima, and there's 13,000 left. They're all severely emaciated and all starving to death. Leave migrating animals starving for food. These include gray whales and short-tailed shearwaters. There's 2 different species, isn't it? Gray whales, which are all emaciated, by the way. The 13,000 that are left will be gone in about 2 years, all of them. And a bird that travels more than 9,000 miles every year from Australia, New Zealand to feed in the Arctic before flying home, the short-tailed shearwaters. There's many different species of the shearwaters, not just the short-tails. There's Cassini auklets are doing the same migratory run, the common murres. Leaned out the helicopter door, scanning the beach below for dead whales and seals. Although a few dead animals were spotted this September afternoon because there's nothing left on the coastline. That's in a severe emaciation you're looking at right there. That's severe emaciation, right? There's one yelled, the natural resource director. to a chopper pilot, to a rotten carcass on the beach, which is this animal here, that's severely emaciated. And one guy was holding a rifle should a hungry Kodiak bear arrive to challenge the small team, which you will do with a big food source for sure. Her body was in poor shape with little fat. So had little fat / emaciated. That's quite the statement, little fat, right? Since 2019, hundreds of gray whales have died along the North American Pacific coastline. It's 14,000 is the number right now, 52% or so. There's 13,000, a little over 13,000 left. They're all severely emaciated. They have no blubber, no fat. They're eating their muscles. They're empty stomachs. They have no surviving babies on the migratory run for 12,000 miles last year. South, now they're headed north. They most likely won't make it. Many appearing skinny or underfed. Hundreds of gray whales died, skinny or underfed. Like, if they miss a few meals, if they miss meals for 30 days, it's not going to affect them at all, right? It means nothing to them. If they miss meal for a year and a half straight, then they have no fat, they have no blubber, and they look skinny, because they are skinny. You don't appear skinny, you are skinny. In September, emaciated young gray whale was seen off the beach near the Kodiaks. All the whales are emaciated. All species, too. It's not just the gray whales. But the gray whales are getting the attention because they're showing up everywhere. Due to atmospheric warming. Why would the atmosphere randomly warm up? All of this, by the way, is happening post-Fukushima, not pre-Fukushima. The world's oceans hold so much excess heat. The oceans never hold heat. The ocean circulates, right? Why would the ocean all of a sudden hold extra heat? What kind of moronic statement is that? You kill the bases of the food chain, the oxygen chain, the carbon sequestration chain with radioactive fallout in 2011 and on, and you broke the cycle. And we're seeing asymmetrical worldwide. What we've seen in the Bering Seas in recent years, he added, is unprecedented. And we got some great videos of them when we were up by Alaska. We've played it before. We got to get them, dig that up and do it again. You can hear them crunching away on sea urchins now, or shellfish now. Such as the Arctic cod, capelin, flatfish evolved to thrive in this environment with the cold pool serving as a protective barrier. Now this thermal force field has all but vanished. Yeah, Fukushima effect. During an aerial survey of gray whales. Isn't it such an interesting, what about the other species? Leave that out, right? Can we afford to be afraid of nuclear power? Remember this disgusting maggot? Tim Gregory from United Kingdom. Splitting atoms in a nuclear power station causing the climate to change. That's actually what's going on. He says his nuclear is carbon free. It's the most, you know what the power bill is every day for Hinkley Point to build the biggest construction site on the planet? But it's carbon free, Dana. Yeah, oh yeah, okay. Surrounded by farms. So when you put fuel in the pool, everybody that eats the food is going to get sick and die from that exposure. Newfoundland agricultural expansion plans paused. Salmon die off on the south coast in September. This is the cold Atlantic Ocean. This is the open, you go straight across to United Kingdom from there. Right, you go out the gate right there, this is a deep ocean, cold water, coming in from the deep ocean, and they have hypoxia killing so 1,300 tons, 500,000 of his salmon. To a sudden drop in oxygen level. How do you get a sudden drop in the oxygen level? in a joint Pacific or Atlantic cold ocean. The ocean is already rich in oxygen because it's so cold, right? Small tragedy, returning Burnaby salmon dying before they can spawn. What kind of salmon is that again? That's the cohos, is it, I believe? We'll see in a second. I think that's the cohos. Yeah, that's a coho. We get so few coho back every year that the unspawned female is a small tragedy. No, that's not a small tragedy. That's a catastrophic tragedy. Well, we got lots of pictures, and we'll get to a lot more tomorrow night. Bear with me. I just got to get back on track here. See, the whole thing is if I start clicking too much on this system that I'm using, because I'm using a TriCaster, they got a few flaws, right? Where if I triple click this, say I got 600 of these screen captures in my session. If I click that too many times, it'll drop down to the very bottom of the session. And so I got to scroll up to 600, but if I don't get rid of the stuff before, it's really hard to find your spot, right? I'm sure everybody done that in their folders where they got a bunch of stuff in their folders and they're looking, they're trying to find a certain spot. It's very difficult to find your way back. A genetic study delves into the secret of how some rockfish live and die like normal fish after, say, a decade, and some swim on for over 200 years. The Greenland shark can live for 400 to 600 years. Imagine that, eh? Rockfish, it's hard to appreciate rockfish because when you look at that, you don't perceive that could be 100 years old or 200 years old. So it's a sin to catch a fish like that, see? That particular type of rockfish, the rough eye, can live to be 200 years old plus. There's many different species of rockfish. And I just love eating rockfish for years and years and years, but I had no concept that they can live that long. And so ever since I figured out they can live so long, I've always felt guilty, right? Rockfish are an incredible meal, but the reality of it is, it's a long time ago. And the reason their eyes are swelled up is because they're deep sea creatures, and when you bring them up, the oxygen in them expands, right? That's why their eyes bulge out like that. The females may only reach maturity at age 20 to 27. And given that the humans are obsessed with living long, why wouldn't you be? You got one kick. There's one little blip in the history of the universe to try to make a difference. And the nuclear industry is trying to take everything away from us. And it's succeeding. And we don't have enough people educating the population. And so I've been running an educational program for a very long time, trying to get the average person educated so that ideally you can create 1 million little clogs in the machine, right? By people are not going to fall for propaganda anymore. Yeah, that's the only problem being in the studio is they got all these bright lights. No matter how clean the glasses are, they don't look clean enough. I got sprayed her, but it takes too long to restore the glasses. The colossal Greenland shark may pass 400, possible 500 years. They're pretty impressive, eh? Manatee are dying everywhere because of the Fukushima effect. This year is unprecedented. 997 manatees deaths reported through November the 5th. Florida on the verge of 1,000 manatee deaths. Starvation, they're starving to death. I'm looking for the date on that, I don't know. Because I got a tendency to have a big mix, right? More whales are washing up dead on the Bay Area beaches. Why? Because they're emaciated, they're starving to death. And they're invoking gray whales, which don't belong in San Francisco Bay, which is full of ships. So you're going to get some ship strikes because, first off, they never ever go there. And now that they're showing up emaciated, looking, because they're smelling the sewage most likely, they're desperate for something to eat, even though they're not supposed to eat until they get to where they're going. They were looking for food. I don't know how many died there this year. This year is an extraordinary amount of gray whales. 19 gray whales in 2021 washed up on the California coast. That's just gray whales. And you got to put in humpback whales, you got to put in fin whales, beak whales, and all the other species. And then the numbers are extraordinary. In many cases, no clear sign of what killed them. So they're talking about entanglement and ship strikes because they're trying to blame the massive increase of die-off on human traffic, right? It's simply not true. They're dying of starvation because Japan broke the food chain. But a third of the whales have been hit by ships, but that's in San Francisco Bay, where there's nothing but traffic everywhere, and they don't go to San Francisco Bay. And they didn't die of ship strike, they died of starvation. They couldn't get out of the way, they were too weak, and so then they got hit by a ship. The crazies / scientists from Alaska to Mexico are working together to unravel the mystery, but they refuse to acknowledge Japan happened. Huge whale found dead in Fifi and not eaten for days. Like if a whale don't eat for days, it doesn't mean nothing to the whale. It's usually got 12 inches of blubber. It can go a year without eating. It can go 12,000 miles in some cases and does, like the gray whales, without eating, right? So if it don't eat for a couple of days, it doesn't matter. It's not like me or you, we don't eat for a couple of days, it feels pretty rough. A whale is not even a blip in their lifespan, right? It means nothing to them. It means they starved to death, they haven't eaten for months or maybe a year. Saved more than 2 million Chinook salmon from a drought. And the reason, so normally what happened when you had a drought is the glaciers will release more water, and so that'll maintain the levels of the rivers and the streams and the estuaries, and the fish and the salmon and that, the steelhead and the salmon, can still get back to the migratory grounds, right? And it regulates the temperatures of streams and rivers, right, so they don't overheat and die, and the eggs don't perish because the river's too hot. And that there's species there to raise the larvae. But when the rivers and the estuaries are heating up because there's no water from the glaciers, because the post-Fukushima, the glaciers are all disappearing. So they're releasing the I can't even remember, the small fries back into the juvenile fall-run Chinook salmon. We call them small fries, basically. More than 2 million baby Chinook salmon that were hatched in hatcheries, the Gatefish Hatchery, were held over the summer at 3 different facilities, including 1 million fish trucked to the Trinity River Hatchery in triple-digit heat. All 3 groups of fish did exceptionally well over the summer and thrived despite challenging circumstances. 1.1 million juvenile. If they didn't do that, the salmon would have disappeared because of Fukushima. And because of 80 years of emission from the nuclear industry, they're going to disappear anyway. The nuclear industry is setting us all now to. Poor catch is battering the Japanese fisheries. Really? Gee, I wonder why. We have 36 reactor cores melting down. Why would that affect the ecosystem, I wonder? Doesn't make any sense to a nuclear scientist. Only to a human, and nuclear scientists will never be a human. So you have radioactive fallout cover the planet in less than 30 days. Reactors lose their entire inventories for decades, ejected right out of the building. And don't worry, nothing got out, everything is filtered, Dana. But it's not. You covered the whole planet in radioactive fallout. How can you even suggest for 0.2 of a second that anything is filtered? Let me just give you a quick introduction. So you had 4 reactors and 8 fuel pools at the top of each. There's 2 reactor fuel pools at the top of each of the buildings. So every 12, 14 months, you're taking a chunk of the reactor core out and putting it in the top of the building for a decade or 2. Or 3 because you don't have a repository to put it somewhere else. So it just stays there. And there's 70 reactors in the United States with that same attribute. This is March the 15th, day 4 of Fukushima. 4 reactors, each of them are massive compared to Chernobyl. Chernobyl was a graphite reactor. Chernobyl was a brand new reactor. Chernobyl was a small reactor. Each of these reactor cores are pure uranium, pure plutonium. Chernobyl's reactors were graphite. It's totally different. Chernobyl's brutal, don't get me wrong. And you can go back and look at my anniversary presentations on Chernobyl and you'll agree with me. That was brutal. And supply you with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of academic studies for my assertions, which are just based on facts and documentation, obviously. And so you got 4 buildings with 8 fuel pools full of reactor cores each. And by the way, the fuel pool has no containment. Where do you think the isotopes are going to go? The fuel is still splitting isotopes for millions of homes and businesses. So if you got 4 reactor cores in each fuel pool, remember Frank von Hippel earlier I played for you. If you got 4 reactor cores in each fuel pool, there's 8 at the top of each building. That would typically be the power for 8 million homes and businesses. And it powered that by splitting atoms. But it has no containment. Do you really think that the atoms that are still splitting are harmless and innocuous and benign? You really think they're surrounded by farms? Almost every nuclear site is surrounded by farms because they love you so much and because it's completely harmless? Do you really think that's what's going on? Are you really that naive? If you go watch Radioactive Drew, you'll realize monsters are actually real. He's a real-life monster, right? High concentrations of radiation hit the United States and Canada. The plume was rich in cesium-137 and close to the surface. Well, the plume covered the entire planet. The French government, IRSN, the France Institute of Radiological Protection and Nuclear Safety, the IRSN, the French government, put the numbers at over 1 million times to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air of what it was pre-Fukushima, for goodness sakes. And so this was 20 to 30 day model right here of radioactive fallout of cesium. Per cubic meter of air is cesium-137, which pulses energy 600 feet every second. So radioactive cesium in a shrimp means the shrimp, say the shrimp is in the fridge, right? It's pulsing energy through the fridge, through the walls, and radiating you every second in your living room. Do you get it yet? It's pulsing through your ceiling and radiating your children all night when they're sleeping, even though it's in the fridge. The fridge can't contain the pulses of energy almost at the speed of light every second. And it's pulsing through your house and through your neighbor's house and radiating people in the next house. And these atoms are so small you can't even perceive them. You can put 200 million on the head of a needle, but you can't perceive it. The neptunium decays to plutonium after 2.5 days with a 24,000-year half-life. All the animals died in the plutonium studies of multiple tumors, not just one tumor, but not just the liver, not just the lung. The majority of them, by the way, died of bone tumors. So they're producing radioactive stem cells right up until they die. They have no hope of surviving. Imagine for the puppies and birds and mammals and animals what this stuff is. Imagine the fact that the whole planet is buried in 20 days. This is based on TEPCO's incredibly low ball numbers of what's actually released. They refused to acknowledge reactor 3 and 4 even melted down or lost their inventories, for goodness sakes. You can't exclude the inventories because TEPCO lied to you and the nuclear industry lied to you. One Fukushima may destroy the whole country. Collapse of a whole country possible. No, it's a collapse of a planet we're talking about. Another study of 1 million atoms per square meter on the west coast. This was the Xenon-133. Now, it might seem harmless to people, but you got to realize the plume doesn't travel by itself. You have 10 million times pre-Fukushima levels of cesium-137, have catastrophic amounts of neptunium decaying to plutonium after 2.5 days. You have 10 million atoms of iodine-131 per liter. Now, it can't be iodine-131 unless it pulses energy every second at the speed of light, each one of them. You can't have like 90,998 or 90 atoms from a nuclear meltdown that don't pulse energy, and there's only 10 pulses a second, like some people here have said to me, which is absurd, and which is what Simon Fraser claimed. But he also acknowledged that he gets $6 million a year from the nuclear industry. Let me play that clip for you, because he had to acknowledge as a disclosure. And when you listen to what he's going to say, the first question you got to ask yourself is, why did the audience laugh when he said, and I'll play the clip for you. It's quite shocking, really. This is the same guy who done that study of 20 million atoms, 20 million particles. It can't be iodine-131 unless it pulses energy every second. So it's 20 million pulses of energy every second per liter sustained. The rain doesn't just fall by a liter.
And living next to a nuclear power station can actually contribute less than your loved.
Let me play that again. Now listen to the audience laugh.
And living next to a nuclear power station can actually contribute less than your loved one when it comes to.
Now, why would the audience laugh at that? Why would everybody laugh at that? Because that's the pro-nuclear community, see? Now he's going to tell you, after the presentation...
With myself as one of the principal investigators, was awarded $6 million.
I cut it off a little bit short. $6 million a year from the nuclear industry. There's a pretty 6 million reasons to lie to you. 20 million atoms, forget about everything. 20 million atoms of iodine-129. So, you know, the narrative is it doesn't pulse energy very far. Yeah, but more than far enough to kill your chromosomes, your DNA, your cells, and everything else when it's in your body, or the birds, or the mammals, or the animals, or the whales, or the insects, right? And in evidence of the followed, you can't have iodine-131, by the way, without 10 times more iodine-132, 30 times more iodine-133. The 132, 133 are 9 times more effective than the iodine-131 at ionizing and radiating the thyroid glands of all the species. And so everybody got blasted. Every insect, every bird, every mammal, every animal got incredibly blasted by radioactive fallout. All right, how are we doing here? That's pretty good tonight, I think, is it? Shout out for James Lucid, by the way. James donated 400, folks. I got parts coming in on Tuesday, hopefully, to finish the truck off, and so I also needed to pick up all kinds of basic stuff, so I did, and we got the money now to cover the installation of the parts. So we're in good shape for that now. We'll have that out of the way. And James also now has got another video for us. He's been posting all week, and he's been busy. And so we got a new one just posted, which is fun. Because we don't know what it is. So I really love that kind of stuff. It's a great way to end the day, right? Just bear with me here. I think I got it back to normal. On bump to plop, plop, plop. Okay. And just look at the poll one more time. So you got a few minutes. This song is going to be 4 minutes long. We're going to play that. James, I was talking to him today. He's been working on that quite a while, so he was hoping to have that ready tonight. We got 30 likes, bless your heart. Got 28 votes. You got time to vote or like. Is Fukushima massive radioactive fallout that covered Earth still deadly? We got the yellow screen of death there. I got a gigabyte a second upload speeds, a gigabyte a second. And YouTube can't seem to get his hands on 5.6 megabytes, even though I got a gigabyte a second. Highly suspect, isn't it? But we got a brand new song to listen to. I think it's a song. Whatever it is, I'm going to enjoy it. You should too. Have a great night. Hugs for everybody. We'll see everybody on the other side. Tomorrow night we're going to pick up on the die-offs. And we might start on the recent die-offs tomorrow night from the last couple of weeks. Because we still got all week to go yet, right? So let's get after this. Have a great night. Hugs for everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
Pipes scream, heat climbing fast.
Steel snaps where the gauges fail.
No one standing close. Egypt's running.
Pools seep, nothing cools, air tastes sharp.
Hands shake off the dials, nothing steady.
You can hear it, even when the room is empty. Counties lined with untracked counts. Clusters that rise without record or name. Airborne isotopes settling reeds and soil, and mothers trace sickness across bodies that no official file will claim. Workers denied when their lungs collapse. Compensation stalled as the burden is shifted back on their families. Whole districts proudly written off, a name erased from the charts where health becomes debt and debt becomes inheritance. Check startled, but the debt moves on. Ratepayers build while the power's gone. Billions sunk in unfinished sites. Subsidies drafted as public rights. Funds line plows with men clearing. Lists deferred on the land they spend. Each bailout cast as a future cure. Economics built on failure ashore. Tanks bleed under rain. West Valley drums still stain the plain. Yucca's gates were never breached. Shipments roll, the pullers breaks. Plutonium spun into box decay. No structure holds for the Spanish state. Generations pass, containers remain. An endless burn, changing life. Enrichment spun in cartel hands. Fuel resolved across the lands. defense decrees and collusion staged. Uranium contracts quietly paid. Proliferation lost and afraid. Full cycles blood, what weapons made. The public fed, mirrors display. Risks expand in another way. Their solution only gets deferred. A burden repeated while the system pretends to hold. They call it clean power, but the words are rehearsed. Life treated until the meaning takes off. There is no safe storage, only numbers staged for show. There is no closed fuel cycle, only a burden carried forward, aged and unresolved. Why stay open as the burden repeats? Every promise, a deeper receipt.